Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am the Omni viewer, and I'm here today to give you my first impressions of Godzilla Aftershock, the official graphic novel prequel to Godzilla King of the Monsters, which also technically makes it a midquel between Godzilla 2014 and King of the Monsters, but why split hairs? Now, this is not a full-blown review like I did of the previous two prequel comics. This is just my initial thoughts after my first reading of the book. Actually, before we get into it, I just have to tell you guys, I got this book for a steal. Like, the price that they ask for on the cover is $24.99. That's the pretty standard price for a hardcover book like this. Now, the place I got it at, which is a nerd ephemera store, if you will, specializes in music, movies, comics, books, things like that. They usually lower the price for new releases like this, and I pre-ordered it there, so they were asking for $17.97. However, I also had store credit there from selling a few items back to them, as well as a bunch of points racked up on my membership card, so I got Godzilla Aftershock brand spanking new for $4.39. I really know how to shop sometimes. But enough about that. How is the book itself? Well, just based on this initial reading, it's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's definitely worth a read, I suppose, if you're really into the Monsterverse. The story's set a couple of months after the events of Godzilla 2014, and covers a globe-spanning trek in which Monarch is tracking this creature, Jinshin-mushi, also known as Muto Prime, and also Godzilla, who is hunting it at the time. It also serves as an introduction to two of our human characters, Dr. Emma Russell and the mercenary Alan Jonah, who will, as far as anyone can tell, be the human villain of Godzilla King of the Monsters. Art-wise, the book is pretty good. I know I'm not showing you actual close-up detailed scans right now, but it all looks pretty good. The monsters are all very well drawn, though if you can see here, I'm pretty sure one of these shots of Godzilla was traced from the 2014 film. I can't prove it, but it looks way too similar to me. The humans all look good as well, and those who are going to be in the movie look close enough to their actor counterparts. However, the really cool stuff is in between each chapter, where you get these Phoenician-style reliefs of an ancient battle between a Godzilla and a jinshin-mushi. We don't necessarily know if they're the same ones we're following in this book, but it shows that this is a battle that's been going on for ages. And the art style here is really neat. It's a nice change of pace between chapters. Godzilla pretty much looks like he does in the 2014 film, and as for Jinshin-mushi, or Muto Prime, I don't necessarily like its design the same way I did the Mutos. I mean, I know the Mutos have often been compared to Clover from the Cloverfield movies in terms of their silhouette, if you will, the general shape of the body, but they had a nice angular design that made them look distinct. Jinshin-mushi here, though, I don't know, seems a little too round in some way. It's not a bad design, I just don't know if I like it as much as the original monsters. But as far as the plot goes, it's not a bad story, but there's honestly not that much that happens in it. If you're worried that you'll need to read this book in order to understand Godzilla King of the Monsters, don't worry about that. It doesn't really contain anything vital. At least I'm fairly certain it doesn't. The most I can say, and I won't get into spoiler territory here, but the most I can say it contributes is an explanation as to why Godzilla's dorsal plates look different between movies. Now, is that sort of thing vital information? No, I don't really think so. If I had to guess, most people aren't really going to be all that concerned about it. Most Godzilla fans, I don't think, won't be that concerned about it. We're used to seeing Godzilla's appearance change from movie to movie. And frankly, I don't think King of the Monsters is going to hinge on whether or not we know why there's this mild cosmetic change in Godzilla's appearance. If it does hinge on that, then we have got a serious problem coming for us at the end of the month. But I don't think that's the case. And as far as the human side of things goes, well, Alan Jonah is the character we've been wondering the most about ever since he was announced. Heck, I think it was all the way back when Kong Skull Island had that Monarch timeline released on Twitter. But the thing is, in this book, he doesn't really do anything. I mean, it's kind of implied that he's involved with releasing the jinshin-mushi, but then again, it's also implied that jinshin-mushi probably would have shown up anyway because the Mutos showed up, so I have a feeling you probably could have just removed him from this book entirely and not really lost anything. At least in the book's current form. Had this been a story that was more about his character and explaining where he comes from, then maybe you wouldn't have wanted to remove him, because he would have been very central to it. As things currently stand, though, he feels like he's there just to be introduced so we know he exists, but we're probably going to get most of the vital information about him in the movie itself. And that, I think, is the important thing to remember. There's no vital information in this book at all. Frankly, that's the thing about all three of these books. They are, for all intents and purposes, optional. In gaming terms, they're the side quests that you take in addition to the main story, but you don't necessarily need to take them in order to complete the game. Now, I do not mean that as any disrespect to the people who made this or to somehow downplay the effort that went into making this book. I would never do that. I'm just saying that this is not like what we saw with the Godzilla anime trilogy, where you had to read the novels if you wanted to get all of the missing plot points or interesting plot points that weren't present in the films. This is here for stuff that you might wonder about, but it's not necessarily stuff that would keep you awake at night as you ponder it and try to figure it out. And of course, like any prequel comic, anything within it is at risk of being overwritten by the movie itself once it comes out. We will see. For example, this book seems to provide an answer to what was going on at the Siberia outpost. Again, I won't get into spoilers, but there was a lot of speculation about the different outposts on the Monarch website, including the Siberia one. I made a video about it myself. This would seem to provide an answer, but then again, if the movie says otherwise, out the window this goes. Well, okay, I don't mean that literally. Maybe that was a little too harsh. I'm just saying that, as far as canon goes, Godzilla Aftershock is on shaky ground no matter what. But with all of that in mind, I repeat what I said in my review of Awakening and Birth of Kong. Godzilla Aftershock is the kind of book you read because you want to read it. And if you do want to read it, it's pretty good. It provides an interesting story, a slightly closer look into the world of Godzilla and his relationship with the Mutos, providing an expansion even of the Mutos themselves, one we may not necessarily ever see play out in the movies, but nevertheless, if you wanted more of those creatures, this book will probably satisfy you. And I should probably mention, in case you were wondering, there's nothing in here about Mothra, Rodan, or Ghidorah, though there is a small little hint that they are at least monitoring Ghidorah, and there's a special cameo of a creature from Skull Island, The Birth of Kong, but I'll let you see which one it is for yourself. So like I said, that's just my first impression of Aftershock. I'll give this a couple more reads and one day do a more in-depth review that probably will contain spoilers, but for now I would just say, if you want to read it, it's definitely a good read, but if you think you need to read it before you see King of the Monsters, you don't need to. This is just for fun. It's not going to be vital to understanding the movie. At least, I don't think it's going to be. But that's just my own feeling on the matter. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer, signing off. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, as well as subscribe to the channel for more content of a similar nature. Also, check the description for links to our Twitter, DeviantArt, and Patreon pages, as well as the Amazon link for the novel Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, penned by yours truly.
Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.